Welcome to Arts in the City. I'm Magali Laguerre-Wilkinson in downtown Brooklyn's New York Transit Museum. Our first story starts right here, where we do a little time traveling in this month's Hidden Gem of New York. New York City has always been a place in a hurry. From the earliest days, New Yorkers needed to get from one place to another and didn't like wasting time doing it. Trolleys, trams, and trains crisscrossed the growing city with all the hustle and bustle expected of an emerging metropolis. The city's growth can be traced by the growth of its transportation systems above, on, and under the streets. This scale diorama of an elevated train line is the jewel of the Transit Museum situated in an old subway station in downtown Brooklyn. The museum features hand-built models of the trolleys and electric buses that carried generations of passengers up, down, and across the town. You can enter these turnstiles free of charge and enter a world of the past preserved for the present. Walk through a line of vintage subway cars from every decade, complete with overhead fans, woven wicker seats, and retro advertising that continue to catch the eye of potential consumers. A popular destination for school groups and tours, the Transit Museum highlights the construction of the subway system and honors the men whose muscle, sweat, and steel would unify the city's far-flung neighborhoods into a single community. The New York Transit Museum is the largest museum of public transportation in the country. Find it at Boerum Place and Skimmerhorn Street in Brooklyn. It's worth the ride. And now a show about New York City's anti-Disneyland. Let's go. A reminder of warmer months is taking place right now at the Brooklyn Museum, featuring the exhibition Coney Island: Visions of an American Dreamland. This is a veritable tribute to Brooklyn, and more specifically, Coney Island. Connie Choi, the Brooklyn Museum's assistant curator, gave us a private tour.
This is Mardi Gras.
Battle of Lights, Coney Island, Mardi Gras.
And there was actually a Mardi Gras at Coney Island for many years. And it was actually in September, not when you would expect the religious Mardi Gras to be. And that was a deliberate choice to extend the commercial season into September.
So this to me depicts what Coney Island started out as.
Yeah.
Or in its heyday. What is it though? I mean, it's full of color, literally and figuratively.
Yes, this is a painting by Ralph Fasanella, who is a self-taught artist. It's called Workers' Holiday, Coney Island from 1965. So what Fasanella is doing here is really celebrating the working class. And that's really the people who are going to Coney Island from its very earliest histories up through, the 21st century.
While this exhibition started in Hartford, Connecticut, and went on to San Diego before coming to the Brooklyn Museum, its popularity shows that it's not just a local story, but an American story, attracting a variety of artists all seeking to show their version of the same thing at different times.
It was a setting for thinking through these ideas of what it meant to be an American at these various moments in time. So you have, again, in the 19th century, artists grappling with national identity after the Civil War. What does it mean to be American when the country has recently been torn apart? What does it mean to be American during the Great Depression when so many people were in financial ruin?
And what does it mean to be American when you've come from another country and
Yes.
you've settled in Coney Island, right?
The immigrant story runs throughout this exhibition. Many of the artists in this exhibition were actually immigrants. And so they come to Coney Island and they see it as being the embodiment of the American dream.
Anybody who sees a photo of Coney Island will say, well, this doesn't look particularly, aesthetically beautiful. Yeah. But what was it about it?
It was the fact that it wasn't aesthetically beautiful. Robin Jaffe Frank, the curator, calls it the anti-Disneyland. And I think that's exactly what it is. It's the fact that it's not beautiful and perfect and
immaculate,
and it's okay to be different in that space, right? It's accepting of a broader audience because you don't have to follow the rules.
This oasis allowed what was perhaps not allowed, and the paintings and photos show signs of an evolving society.
Coney Island, from its very beginning, was a place where it was okay to break the rules a little bit. It starts in the 19th century, but it really gains headway with the rise of the amusement parks. The first enclosed amusement park in the world is opened at Coney Island in 1895. And from that moment, it becomes a place where people really let go a little bit, where it's okay to touch someone of the opposite sex when you're on a ride together, where it's okay to wear clothing that wouldn't be appropriate in society otherwise.
And this peninsula in Brooklyn also became a draw to the moving image, going as far back as the early 20th century.
You have a lot of silent films. During the Great Depression, again, you have filmmakers going to Coney Island because it was a way to take a break and to show people what it was like and thrill people who are otherwise downtrodden. Again, you really do have the two growing up together, and I think that's precisely why filmmakers were attracted to Coney Island, is because it was both emblematic of the American experience, but it was also a break from it as well.
Coney Island, Visions of an American Dreamland, runs through March 13th. Our next stop is a profile of Noche Flamenca, a flamenco-inspired dance troupe which comes from our sister show, Nueva York, shown here in Spanish with English subtitles.
Yo soy Martín Santangelo, nacido aquí en Nueva York.
Soledad Barrio, mi nombre artístico, y la mujer del director Martín Santangelo. Para mí es más positivo que negativo. Son muchas horas juntos, pero a mí me gusta porque nos conocemos y creo que es más fácil trabajar.
Es fenomenal, la verdad. No, y a veces hay conflictos, pero la verdad está muy bien porque nos conocemos y podemos trabajar más profundamente. Estamos haciendo un show de flamenco clásico y un par de escenas de un trabajo que hemos hecho, que acaba de salir, que es Antígona. He decidido hacer la obra Antígona de Sófocles por el juez Garzón. Él estaba luchando por la gente de España para excavar las tumbas improvisadas que han hecho durante la Guerra Civil, y en ese momento la han echado de España. En casa he cogido un libro de Bertolt Brecht, que era su Antígona, su versión de Antígona, y lo he leído y digo, wow, es lo mismo. Hasta el entierro, un familiar queriendo enterrar un cuerpo, y por razones políticas que el gobierno dice no tienes el derecho. Entonces, para mí el juez Garzón es Antígona.
Es muy curioso porque en general prefiero trabajar en teatro porque te da una intimidad, como hay más separación entre el mundo, entre el público y el artista en el escenario. Pero ahora aquí la verdad es que me lo estoy pasando genial porque siento al público, la energía del público me llega como no me llega en el teatro. En nuestros espectáculos siempre hay mucha improvisación, pero la improvisación tampoco puede surgir de una forma tan espontánea si en realidad yo conozco la música de los guitarristas porque los conozco hace años.
voy a explicar muy rápido de dónde viene el flamenco. En el año 100, los árabes conquistaban a España y por 850 años mandaban a España, los árabes. Lógicamente, los españoles estaban muy enfadados. Entonces, reconquistaban su país y era la Inquisición. Era una limpieza étnica contra los árabes, los judíos, los sefardíes, los gitanos, cualquier grupo que no era españoles. Y era una limpieza étnica extraordinaria, la matanza más grande que existe en la historia de la humanidad. Y ahí muchos grupos han empezado a gritar. Y eso era el origen del flamenco. Siempre hay que volver a eso, porque si no volvemos a los inicios del flamenco, es algo comercial y falso y espectacular. Es muy bonito ver un chico en unos pantalones estrechos y con un buen culo, mola, ¿no? Pero no, eso no es una parte del flamenco, pero hay la parte esencial es defender la humanidad. Eso es lo que el flamenco defiende, la humanidad.
It shouldn't be a big secret that women have had a huge impact on the history of New York. Donna Hanover went to the New York Historical Society to find out more.
Women are about to get a lot more credit for their role in the arts and in history.
Louise Mirror, president and CEO of the New York Historical Society, says work is underway to open early next year a permanent center for the study of women's history.
We usually learn American history really punctuated by the stories of men. We miss out on a huge number of stories and therefore the richness, the true richness of history by leaving out the women. We need a Women's History Center because no other institution, certainly not any other cultural institution, includes women's voices in their stories of history, not on a permanent basis. Those are the kinds of stories that we will be telling.
The center will focus especially on the early 20th century with women like the suffragettes and Eleanor Roosevelt, but also others.
During the early years of the 20th century, there was a remarkable group of women, some of them born in New York, but many of them who came to New York because it was one of the few places in the entire world that offered opportunities to women. Lillian Wald was a young woman who came to New York. She went to nursing school because she realized that as a nurse she could really help people and that some of the problems, some of the worst problems, really stemmed from the dire and unhygienic conditions in the tenements. She not only founded the settlement house movement, but she also founded the visiting nurse service. It was a brilliant, brilliant concept.
Many women who were employed at the time worked under deplorable conditions, like those that led to the deaths of 146 garment workers in the 1911 Triangle Shirtwaist Factory fire. The center will show how other women responded.
Frances Perkins was in New York in 1911. She witnessed the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory fire. And when she went to Washington later on as the first cabinet member, a female cabinet member in a president's cabinet, she said the New Deal was born that day, the day she witnessed that fire. Our visitors will learn about a group of New York women who were the real movers and shakers of their time, but who have been largely lost to history.
There will be a multimedia film and interactive exhibits in the center.
You might touch a shoe or a handbag or a necklace and learn the story of the woman through that object.
Adjacent to the center on the 4th floor will be a spectacular gallery to showcase 100 gorgeous Tiffany lamps. That's because of a discovery made about 6 years ago.
Most of Tiffany lamps were designed by women.
Were they really?
Yes. Tiffany employed an all-female, what he called glass cutting department, actually design department. He felt that women were close to nature And he, as a result, was very eager to have women join his workforce. And it's a fascinating story because these women faced all of the social problems of the time. For example, the men who worked at Tiffany Studios were quite put out that women were earning as much money. They were earning good salary, earning as much money as they were. The head of the department was a young woman who had come to New York from Ohio, Clara Driscoll, and she came here to go to art school, which she did at the Met, and then to find employment. She wrote very, very detailed letters home to her mother and sisters, how the glass was made, how the designs were done, catastrophes when things fell apart, and a lot about her social life. She lived in a boarding house in Gramercy Park. She bicycled around the city. It's really quite a fabulous story. But behind the lamps will be the story of the women who created them.
The center will be collecting the stories of modern-day women, as well as hosting conferences and scholars to research women from the past.
If you want to learn the story of this nation and this city, then this is a part of it. Our goal really is just to put women back in the story.
So the New York Historical Society expects to open a lot of eyes to the role of women in the arts and in history. I'm Donna Hanover for Arts in the City.
I'm Pat Collins in the Manhattan offices of the Actors Fund. Its mission is to help all those in need in the entertainment industry. To achieve that goal, there are 70 fundraising events a year and many guardian angels in the wings and on stage.
George Bailey, by virtue of the authority vested in me, I hereby declare that in the eyes of heaven, you were never born. Hey.
I got to participate in a one-night-only special performance of the musical of It's a Wonderful Life with Brian Stokes Mitchell as the star, and that
and
was.
You were Clarence.
And I was Clarence, yes, the angel, and that was great, and it provides an opportunity for an audience to see something they might not otherwise see, and again raises money for the fund. The Actors Fund is a natural extension of the theatrical community. The theatrical community has always taken care of each other. It supports everyone in the business who needs help on both sides of the footlights, on both sides of the camera.
Unique events, such as a recent special performance of the hit musical Something Rotten, raise money to support the fund's 4 areas of service.
The areas that we focus on are social services and emergency financial assistance, as well as our career center, which helps people focus on not only the work they're doing in the industry, but to help develop sideline or parallel or complementary careers. There's the health insurance and health care services and housing.
Housing includes the expanded Lillian Booth Actors Home for Assisted Living and Skilled Nursing Care in Englewood, New Jersey. The Dorothy Ross Friedman Residence in Manhattan offers affordable housing for working entertainment professionals and persons with AIDS, thanks in part to major support from Tom Hanks.
Tom made a pitch to the bank on our behalf. Those people who are doing well, people, think about Hugh Jackman or Tom Hanks, who we mentioned. They give so much to our community. Not only do they personally contribute, but they encourage a much larger audience to support the Actors Fund.
Some of the fund's other famous supporters include Lin-Manuel Miranda, Angela Lansbury, Alec Baldwin, Catherine Zeta-Jones, Michael Douglas, Morgan Freeman, Hugh Jackman, and Bebe Neuwirth. The fund also partners with Broadway Cares Equity Fights AIDS, which addresses the needs of everyone in performing arts and entertainment.
For anybody that lived through that time period in the mid-'80s, late '80s, we were losing people so fast, so quickly. It was devastating. When we opened this building in 1996, a third of the tenants were people living with HIV and AIDS. Within the first year, 10% of our residents died. Things have certainly improved, but it's not over, and people have to remember it's not over.
Broadway's star-studded opening nights, Hollywood's A-list walking the red carpet, these images suggest that most actors and actresses are wealthy, but they are the 1%.
The people who are the backbone of the industry and who really make happen what you go to see, the thing that gives people so much pleasure, whether it's a film or a TV show or a play. Those people are the ones who are doing it because they love it.
Broadway is the biggest attraction for any tourist and anyone coming to New York City. Everyone wants to go to Broadway. So that is the economic engine for Manhattan. When you know that so few people can earn a decent living in show business, but they're dedicated to acting or to creating things, it's amazing. When you think that dancers on the whole earn less than $20,000 a year, that about 15% of all actors earn more than $25,000 a year.
I'm one of the lucky ones. I started out in the theater and was very happy making, I won't even say how much a week, but it wasn't very much. I remember living on saltine crackers and peanut butter and cup of noodle soup. But I do think there is something particular about the performing arts, especially in a country where it is not subsidized for the most part, that there's something of a sacrifice that people who devote themselves to the arts and to the performing arts. They are people who provide such an incredible service, which is to show us ourselves.
The fund, which opened its doors 134 years ago, will hold its annual gala in Manhattan on April 25th. The honorees this year are Michael Douglas, Gloria and Emilio Estefan, and Cynthia Gregory. I'm Pat Collins for Arts in the City.
When it comes to art from the ancient world, the relics of Egypt have captivated generations. Now you can see the tomb of King Tut in Manhattan. Andrew Falzone went for a visit.
Archaeologists in Egypt believe the Queen Nefertiti's tomb may have been hiding behind King Tut's for centuries. Here in New York, King Tut's tomb has been recreated as it was first discovered, down to the most minute detail.
And of course, it's the only way that you can see them nowadays because nothing is traveling from Egypt.
Dr. David Silverman has made his life's work studying the history of ancient Egypt. While the original objects from the Tut collection are staying put in Egypt, he helped guide us through the exhibition on Manhattan's Fifth Avenue entitled The Discovery of King Tut.
In Cairo, for example, there are almost 5,000 pieces that are on exhibit in not much space, so it's very hard to see them, and with all the crowds. Here, you have much closer contact with the exhibit and with the artifacts.
This is not museum under glass, this is kind of an immersive experience. But I think the most important thing is how close you can come, how you can even reach out and touch some of these objects because they're not the originals.
All of the items on display are replicas handcrafted by Egyptian artisans. The exhibition recreates some of the rooms contained inside the tomb, including the burial chamber just as it was found in 1922. That's when Howard Carter made the rare discovery of finding a pharaoh's tomb almost entirely intact.
I think it may be the way of the future as curators of museums want to keep their collection at their museums for two things. It's their museum and also just the danger in traveling things.
In total, there are about 1,000 objects on display as part of the exhibition, but for Dr. Silverman, one in particular stands out.
I like the chariot because it's one thing that you always see pictures of, but they're taken apart. Here you can see how flimsy it really was and how it could possibly have been the way that Tut died.
A special program of activities and lectures has been planned to accompany the exhibit, which runs until May 1st. I'm Andrew Falzone for Arts in the City.
Inspired by his Chinese heritage, contemporary artist Richard Tsao combines bright colors and a multitude of fabrics in his art. Asian American Life's Kyung Yoon has the story.
Richard Tsao has called New York home for more than 30 years, but his art is dotted with colors and influences from Asia. His recent exhibit at the Art Projects International Gallery in Manhattan is a good example.
These are my works on paper. It's called Rounds. This body of works actually was inspired by Chinese bronze mirrors that I saw when I was at the National Palace Museum in Taipei many years ago. The oil paint is applied onto round plexiglass, and there are many, many layers, just like the mirrors themselves has a lot to do with many layers of polishing and polishing until the owners can actually see the reflection of themselves.
It's really a process that he takes so much care in making his art, and it's very sort of well thought out. Also has connections to his signature work that's produced in his studio he calls Flood Room.
The Flood Room is where Richard Tsao has created his unique signature paintings inside a completely sealed and waterproofed studio that is kept heated at 110 degrees. His technique is like no other artist's. He mixes his own pigment and paint with marble dust on canvas. The pieces are soaked, dried, painted, and flooded in a process repeated over many years, a labor-intensive art form that creates an encrusted alchemy of colors and textures.
They're bumpy. They're more like outer space terrain or landscapes that we see from satellite pictures. The process is very tropical in a way because I grew up also with lots of flood. I guess everything that I do in terms of my art or my design is very influenced from my childhood.
Richard Tsao was born and raised in Bangkok, Thailand, a country flooded not only with monsoons, but with the vibrant colors of tropical flowers, food displays, and the hand-woven silks that he vividly remembers from his childhood. 13 years ago, on a visit home to Bangkok, he was inspired by the beautiful silks of his homeland to try his hand at a very different art form, working with fabric. Richard started designing women's clothing, he says, at first just for fun. Since then, it's turned into another creative outlet for him, with his designs being sold in museum shops throughout New York City and even the Metropolitan Opera, where his Carmen jacket and the Pagliacci jacket are popular sellers. His studio in Jackson Heights, Queens is brimming with design ideas and color swatches that turn into luminous and multicolored jackets, scarves, and accessories.
I like color, so it seems like the silk as a medium works very well for what I desire. I grew up with beautiful Thai silk. I was always fascinated with seeing a silk being hand woven. I'm very happy that the tradition is still very much alive, and I work with these wonderful silk weavers who actually weave the silk specially for me. I don't know whether I have any specific ideas in terms of the concept of my clothes, but I like fun and festive. But I think that's a little bit of my philosophy in life. A little bit of festive, a little bit of fun helps because I think we all work so hard.
How do you see yourself? As an artist first? Designer?
I would consider myself a little bit of everything. Artists, making paintings was always my first passion. So I consider myself the accidental designer. And I really did not think that it would continue for this long, but happily it has.
I'm Kyung Yoon for Arts in the City.
That's our show for today. For more information on any of our stories or to watch them at any time, go to the website at the link below. I'm Magali Laguerre-Wilkinson, and thanks for watching Arts in the City.